So my name is Susanna Antico and I am a lighting designer based in Milano. And we are in Milano and this is my office. I have a degree in architecture and that's the only official degree I have because I never studied lighting design. The company carries my name mainly because I am the one who started the company and I'm the owner of the company and I'm the one who basically pulls everyone to do the job. And I never liked to have my name in the company, Susanna Antico Lighting Design Studio. But it was taking me so long to find another name that I say, you know what, that's fine. And I'm always thinking, maybe soon I'll stop, so why bothered looking for another name? And I got into lighting design through a bit of a long journey because my father was an architect and an engineer, and since I was a little girl, I had to be in his office. He was always sort of bitching that if you are the daughter of a butcher, you would be in the store and helping. Since you can walk, you would start helping the family business. So I said, why designers don't have the same? So you come to the office and you help. And I got really good in cleaning pens. The inking pens, I was great. And in inking, you had to ink without leaving any drops. And all our friends, I'm talking about the 60s, and there was a lot of design, a lot of relation with space and with architecture, so this has always been very natural for me. I was also born in Sardinia, and still today, when I get off the plane, and I say, I can see, there's another light in Sardinia. I can really see well. But this is, let's say, the first part of the story. I studied architecture and this happened in Belgium, and for 2 years afterwards I had to do an apprenticeship. And during this apprenticeship I've always met people that were very sensitive to lighting. Architects that had a big sensitivity, not only for daylight but also for artificial lighting. I remember being in turnout with Paul Skellekens, and he did this elderly home, and we were looking at the project, and he was bitching and saying, these projectors, they're just not in the right place. So like all architects do, he would take a chair and say, hold me, and he would just direct and focus the projectors the right way. And I've always played with shadows. And at that time, after Belgium, I lived in New York. And I remember noticing the space and being bothered by glare. And when I finally went into lighting design, a friend of mine said, finally, you will do something for something that has always obsessed you. They would call it obsession. It was an interest, a curiosity. But the step happened because unfortunately my father died very young. Suddenly I was in Milan and my first kid was a baby, was 9 months old. My father passed away during vacation. So, come back in September and that big office full of master plans, museums to be renovated, little apartments, furniture that was in the middle of being designed. And as I've been educated like that, I pull my sleeves up and I do what needs to be done. So grabbed the baby, went down to Sardinia and started fixing all what needs to be fixed. And among all those projects, there was a beautiful renovation for a bank. Marvelous work. A lot of money. 5 million at the time, we're talking 1992, 1993. And in this renovation, and I was the head of the architect, in charge of everything. And it was very funny because I was traveling with a baby and just without any problem, because I've always been treated as a person by my father, not as a girl or a boy. I was a person, and like that, you do what needs to be done. So during these meetings and this marvelous renovation, I asked who is going to do the lighting. And I remember this was very funny because suddenly there was silence. What do you mean? I said, I mean, who is going to do the lighting? All these beautiful paintings, who is going to work on that? Who is going to enhance it? How are we going to do it? So they say, well, there is an electrical engineer and there is a manufacturer. I'm not going to say the name of the manufacturer in order to avoid issues, also because it's more than 20 years ago, so no need to get myself in trouble. So there was no way, because they did something really weird. We were in a room and they say, how many lakhs do you have on the table? I thought, how many lakhs? So they were challenging me, they were telling me, I remember you because during your studies you didn't know about physics and you came to me or asked me questions, said this is impossible because I didn't study in Italy, I never met you, I don't know who you are. I just want someone competent. I looked through the catalog of this manufacturer, they just don't have the right luminaires. And due to my sensitivity, I knew something was just working out. So I remember that my father had this lighting consultant who used to work indeed for a manufacturer, but so he used to call this lighting consultant, and despite the fact that he was working for a manufacturer, he had a good feeling and knew that there were so many different possibilities still at that time. So I hired him, but it has been a very difficult situation, a lot of fights, and the manufacturer ended up doing the rooms. I ended up studying lighting design like I've never studied anything else in my life, just to answer the questions. And I was allowed to do some decorative lighting. So when this project finished, I said, you know what, this is what I want to do. I don't want to continue dealing with space, which is beautiful. I had done it for almost 10 years in any case, but it was my thing. You know, putting order in space. And this is how I got to lighting design. I like to define myself an architectural lighting designer, an environmental lighting designer. But among all the lighting design I did, what I prefer and I like most is public lighting, lighting the public realm, because I think that people has the right to live well, to live in enjoyable environments, and you can fix your house, your direct environments, but it's much more difficult for you to have an impact on public spaces. So I love the relation between people and the environment. So if I can have an impact on that, that's what my biggest interest is. And I'm curious about the habits of the people and the way they live. What always amazes me is that people is able to do an enormous detour to see a beautiful sunset, but doesn't start screaming or being very upset under bad lighting. This has always amazes me. How we don't make the step that our perception is the same, we're the same human beings, but we're so frightened. I would say this is an old story, because the sun dares disappearing, though, so as long as there is light, we are happy and we feel safe and we accept this bad lighting. And I think this is totally wrong. Without professional lighting designers, there is no space, no color, no right finishes, no right textures, and no ambience. And also there is something else, you don't control light. Light is the most independent thing you can think of. You have a white building at night, it's going to be the most important building if the reflection is right. And a dark building, very interesting, very beautiful, it just disappears. So we need professional lighting, not because we need to light. Nothing is mandatory. We have strategies, we do what we want to do in order to live well, to go back to the story before. But we can't accept that we have a distorted environment. So we need professionals. And also professionals care for saving, doing on real energy savings, because technology is limited. How much efficiency can we get? How far can we aim? Only if we light in the right place at the right moment with the right amount, we do a correct work. Lighting technology it has developed so fast that caught us all by surprise. So we are still building a culture behind it to support it. I think that it will take a while before we see the real benefits of this marvelous technology. But just not to go too far, I remember I did a red light hotel back in 2000, 1999, 2000. I still did it with halogens and filters. And after only a year, 2 years, I could have had this RGB and marvelous system that would have solved so many issues. But besides that, I think that one really good thing of technology is that awakened in people the need for lighting, good lighting. It's true that everyone is very now intrigued by the color, by colored lighting, but it doesn't matter, because this maybe we will all grow tired of it. But this technology is just amazing. I mean, thinking that we can change the quantity of lighting, the color, the direction, that we don't need to do who knows which exercises to aim little projectors. I think it's fantastic. But of course, there is a lot of work to know this technology. It's an enormous challenge. In the past, with my closed eyes, I would say, yes, you use 150 metal halide. And now I'm skeptical. And also, the sustainability of this technology worries me, because you change a big system when it doesn't work anymore. So more solutions, and maybe more independent solutions, hopefully will come out from this beautiful technology. You know, I've been wondering about these questions. It was so good. It took me a while to say, what would I really do? You know, remember Le Corbusier with an unlimited budget that did really a really poor house, very with only the essentials. No, we're not going to do that. I would love to design a city from scratch, working with a group that does the design and realizing the city, and finally integrating the lighting, really not as a layer that you don't know very well where to insert. And I would like also to study more materials, more pieces of furniture and of building construction where lighting is integrated. I know this is against lighting designers, but I don't intend it that way, but I intend it where you have some fixed basic functions, where one type of light would be enough. And another sort of dream I have is to have time and go teaching and doing workshops with children. Children are just amazing with lighting. I did some work on that against school abandoning in the middle of Sardinia, middle of nowhere, classes with like 8-9 kids. And they are fantastic, because I would talk about lighting and they would understand everything much better than the teachers and react. And we would used to walk at night and looking at public lighting together. And they knew it. They understood. And I think that this culture of light that is so slow depends a lot on building upon this culture. So I would really like to have money to do this. When I finish a project, because a lot of projects start and they just get lost. And other projects, we do finish them, but there were so many issues. You know, you were just happy in the beginning because they chose you, but you were happy. You got rid of the end of the project, end of the client. But among the successful projects, I have to say I liked them all, because with the attitude of getting into it. Also, when I go into a very ugly place, we just fall in love with the place, because we study the culture, we study the place, and that's a place I would move in immediately, because I say, wow, it is so beautiful. We find the beauty in every place. But there are two projects I like to remember now, and one is in Treviglio, northern of Milano, and this project started in 2003, and at that time I was a consultant, because that's what I've always tried to do. Try to avoid to have my own office and work for others. And this doesn't work very well. But I was a consultant for an engineering company, electrical engineers that were specialized in street lighting. And in the year 2000, 2002, the idea of a need for architectural lighting was pushing. So we got in touch and we had a long collaboration. So we won the master plan for Treviglio. And simultaneously the city wanted to renovate the lighting of the downtown area. I suffer always a bit when they want to do only the downtown area, you know, the jewels. And I said, well, what about the suburbs? What about the rest? Anyway. And this project was very successful because the person who had the capability of choosing, of saying yes, was convinced and had a strategy and had the will and the money to do the project. So I took a walk with the mayor, and he was showing me the downtown area, Via Roma. A lot of cities in Italy have this main street, Via Roma, and he was telling me, I did this already twice. I've been a mayor for so many years, I did this twice, and it doesn't work. It's ugly. And we did another main street. I said, again, I don't understand. And so I told him, you know, the problem is you have a cake and you only eat the cherries and all the rest is cardboard. It's not good. So I say, you have to stop doing the main roads. You have to do a whole part as big as possible, because lighting is like music, it works in proportion. We see with very little light and with a lot of light. We have to give the la, and then we start. And he looked at me like, you know, wow. And he did everything I told him to do. And this is the amazing thing. They have to let us work. You call a professional, you let him work. Even the engineers, they were astonished. They couldn't believe it. They said, they're investing so much money, they're doing all the facades. And so this downtown area is round. So we did a nice slice. And the citizens were happy. And they were talking to me in the streets and saying, you know, there is another little bell tower there. Did you forget that? Why you didn't do that? And the big success was also because I followed everything. And until then, I had done smaller projects, and a facade, a square, but it was all area, on every detail. And they got so excited about it that the priest came to talk to me, to tell me that since the cathedral had been lit, there were many more people going in the evening to the church, so he was so grateful for doing this for him, and all sorts of stories that were very nice. And they kept on. We did the whole downtown area in 5 years, maybe less, 4 years. It's always a long time. And this combination of letting us work, having the money, of course, and having the possibility of saying yes and not maybe, if, you know, taking things for so long makes projects successful. So it's that was a big emotion. And still today, I go there. It's an old, the first part was finished 2014, so we're talking really a long time. It's still beautiful. It's still soft, and it's very, very comfortable. Yes. And the second one is The Last Baby, the Cathedral of Antwerp, that is giving us a lot of joy. And I'm very fond of that project because it was very challenging. The cathedral is asymmetrical. We didn't choose a lot of the lighting points. So we found a good balance between the emotion and the kind of space we wanted to create. And also we had a confirmation that you need to know what you're doing. You need to know that your photometrics really well, you need to know your techniques, your science, because otherwise things are not going to look right. So we didn't get frightened by the 121 meters, by the asymmetry, by all the difficulties. We just worked symmetrically, cleaning the shadows, and the nice thing is that the spire of the cathedral got like cheeky. It's so beautiful. You can't see it during the day because there are so many details. It's a crowded place, the downtown area, or it's so far you just don't see it. But at night it looks at you like, have you seen me? And we are amazed. The city, the architect that worked with us in the city, he sends me pictures. When there's full moon, and I'll get a picture. I said, did you see that? It's always the same cathedral. But I say, look how beautiful, and they're so proud. They sign up in Lucci, and now they walk around and talk about city lighting. And this is fantastic. We have been working for them for 10 years. They have a master plan we did, and they're applying it. They're doing things according to the rules. So this is a big satisfaction also because we think the people are going to live well and be happier, because that's always the same story. You need to be happy in life, and if the surroundings help you, wow, that's fantastic. I have the biggest challenge for myself because I'm too curious. I love taking risks. And I love other people, so I always think I have an idea of how to do things, but I like to hear someone else's opinion and to work with other people, and this is really a big challenge. It's much easier to say, we do like that, and that's it, and I can't do it. I love this. And the big challenge is, it has been on a low level of not being an architect anymore. People was really shocked. You only doing lighting? You throw away your degree in architecture? So I'm not throwing away anything. Without a degree in architecture, I wouldn't be able to be a lighting designer. And then I wanted to be a wife, a mother, a professional, and a professional not only working in designing, but also being involved in associations that take an enormous amount of time, and then willing to be a teacher. So this means workshops, now the challenge, the IALD, CLD program, you name it, I'll be on that. Because I can't resist. So this is an enormous challenge for your life. And then I also want to have friends and a private life. And I must have forgotten something else. So this is really terrible. You know that game? Are you happy about your career? And they send it to you. And I say yes, immediately. So I say, what was the joke about? I say, no, you have to try to say no and you can never catch it. But I'm very happy. You come here on Sunday, I'm here. Because I love my job so much. But indeed, not having had a proper education in lighting design for many years was a very strong challenge in doing the profession. I felt I was lacking something. Like, am I a real one? You know, I was in New York in the years of when the first lighting design studies were available at Parsons, but it was expensive, and I wanted to be independent. I wanted to work and have money and not study again. I didn't study so much. I only did architecture for 5 years and 2 years of apprenticeship, but it's 7 years. And so you know, when something, it's like sickness, you know, lighting, I always say it's a sickness, because once you get it, you don't get rid of it. It came back, and yeah, I would say this is the challenge, because I love people. Also, when people is very nasty and you have nasty clients or nasty colleagues, things always find a solution. Either you abandon the job, that's a good thing we can do. You're an independent, you say, you know what, I'm stopping, do it yourself. So many people. I arrived in Milan in 1990, and my husband had a friend. I said, you need to meet someone. And this person was Cinzia Ferrara. So he introduces us, and he said, she does the job you want to do. And the second thought I had immediately, it exists. It exists. It could be a job I can do. Because this was before the whole story with the renovation, with my father passing away. It was just before, but she was doing, and I don't remember now if she was already independent, she was becoming independent in those years. But they said, wow, and you know, these things, you put it on the side, but it's there. And then things went in a way that I really became a lighting designer. But for me, the old ELDA group was what made a lighting designer out of me, because I didn't study Milano. I lived in Italy only until I was 18. So I've never been really a Milanese. Now I like Milano, I'm happy here, but I didn't know anyone from school. I didn't have any colleagues, and I kept on thinking, I left New York and I arrived here as a wife, what the hell am I gonna do? So the ELDA group, yes, with Kevin Shaw, with Paul Traynor, with Gadieladi, and with Kai Pipo, everyone was so generous and so reassuring. I remember I would start bitching immediately, complaining, and that it was impossible to do the job, and I discovered that it was impossible everywhere. It was exactly the same thing, and the only motto we could use is that they need us, because without us, they're not going to see anything. And also Bianca Tresoldi at that time, she had just separated from her previous partners, and there was a lot of energy in starting with this career that we have never seen as, you know, new offices, but the necessary added value. And then my girls, I've always worked with other people. Again, when I say I want to work alone, it's just because I want to work less. You know, I have this illusion that if I don't say anything to anyone, I'll work a little less and I will have more time for, you know, all the rest. This doesn't happen. And if I think at the energy, you know, Elena Gentili and Ulko Naiboglu and Chiara Carucci, this was an explosion in the office. They were very important for me. And now I'm sorry, I'm definitely forgot someone, but this is why it's so difficult to give names. But everyone I worked with, and still today, I love this lighting design community. That is, it's a very nice one, full of competition, but also full of that extra. Like we have a secret, we know. It grows every day. I find myself more and more being astonished in front of daylight and of the mutual reaction between the built space and and the surrounding world and all the effects of the sky. It's still something. I say, you see, we can add that to the archive, to the knowledge, and this is for daylight. For artificial light, I'm really astonished by how our perception can be fooled. And definitely now with LEDs trying to compone colors like we were painters. And sometimes I go to manufacturers that do a lot of research. And it's so interesting how different things look like. We have numbers and quantities and measurements, and then we have our perception. And it's just amazing. And I love this. I love this because, first of all, it's very important to understand for whom you design. It's a little child, it's an elderly person, and culture, the kind of colors you see in your surroundings and you're used to, that are so important. And that you can keep on researching on this interpretation. So it keeps on, it's the studies are never finished. But the real percentage of the feel, because I'm now still the president of IALD, and we are 7, I think, and there are only 2 men in the council, and there are 5 women, and the past president is a woman. And I think I know many more lighting designers that are female than male. I think it's a very feminine occupation. Could it be that the absence is due to the fact that women like to do things, to work, and maybe they don't have time to send proposals for talks, or I don't know, because I know Bianca Tresoldi, she's also a lighting designer, she's in the council, and she said, don't ask me to give lectures, send me to the site to do focusing, to do my job. That's what I want to do. So maybe there is also a bit this aspect that we like to do things, and maybe, but as a matter of fact, I'm noticing now, and lately I'm noticing that more. I look, how many women, how many men? I've never done this before. Also because I used to work with women all the time, so people used to talk to me or to the girls. And for the development of the kind of work in the office, Gadulad is working with me, and I've indeed noticed that when we are in a meeting, they would ask questions to him. So, what is it? Sometimes he either doesn't know, or either I'm the one who should answer the question, or he knows. But indeed, because maybe there is still. That if you're a man, you prefer asking a question to a man, or if you're a woman to a woman. I don't know. It's an interesting question, and I have so many different answers for that. I don't know, but we definitely. It would be nicer, also less boring, if they invite us more to the talks. To young women, because the older ones don't need my advice. I think that a very important thing is to be very competent, very professional, to know the material very well. You need to know the norms and to know to keep up with technology. So if one wants an easy life, there was this nice sentence by Zaha Hadid who said, if you want an easy light, don't be an architect. And we can say, if you want an easy light, don't be a lighting designer. But there are different ways. You can have a large office because you want to do one big project, and But then you really need to get all your ingredients with different specific type of knowledges. If you want to work on your own, you choose one field where you're really good at, you sell those services, and then this doesn't mean you don't know anything else about the rest. But it has become very challenging. Like in architecture, materials are so different, the norms are so different, so variated so I think that making this choice is important. And another choice is, another good advice is to stick together, to work together. Because again, a lot of way of saying come to my head today. You know, you go alone, you go faster. You go in group, you go further. And working together gives you much more richness. But I think that this kind of profession suits women very well. I don't know why. Maybe because we are often mothers, so we have more patience. We know that things can change, that there is not one absolute reality, that, you know, reality may have different, you can think about something one way and then you change your mind. And also appearance and reality have a very thin line in lighting. If women work in a country where there is preconceived ideas, I think that being very strong in the knowledge you have in your professionalism, that kills everything. You just know your stuff, you know it well, and that's it. This is a bit the risk, you know, with lighting, because it's so attractive that you like to dream with lighting and to do. And also, you know, because we are creative, then we're not realistic, then we're not conscious, then we're not. It's not true. Everything is possible, but I think a good technical base kills everything.